You didn't just happen to be here. You've been pulled to this moment by something old, persistent, and quietly bright inside you. The deeper part of you that feels the stirrings of change before they can be seen. Not the part that scrolls or looks. You might start to remember what that self has always known as you read these words. These days, you might have felt like your life is falling apart. What was once normal has become strange. You feel like the ground beneath you isn't stable. Things that used to make sense don't seem to make sense anymore, and old systems fall apart. But think about this. In a symbolic language of the mind, this kind of confusion rarely means nothing. What if the feeling of being lost isn't the end, but the shaking before a new start? What if the chaos is holy and needs to be broken down so that something more real can come out? Carl Jung often told us that the unconscious mind doesn't talk in plain English, but in signs and symbols. It's not always clear when a big shift is coming before it does. This time it whispers. It sends dreams that last, patterns that keep happening, and feelings that come on for no reason. If you don't pay attention, these signs will get louder until life starts to break apart what isn't meant to hold you. What's really sad is not the crash itself, but how many people got it wrong. It's known as failure, bad luck, or bad timing. They dull the pain or give up just before the reveal. But the fact that you're here means that you are listening. It means that something inside you is paying attention, even if your conscious mind doesn't understand the signs yet. That is the point at which change starts. I will show you 7 clear signs that your life is not going apart, but is instead breaking open in the pages that follow. This messiness we see is really the start of a bigger plan. And if even 3 of these signs feel right to you, your soul has already started its trip. There is no new stage in your life coming. It is already happening inside you in a deep, quiet way. Let's start. When your soul is getting ready for its brightest season, the first sign is that you start to doubt everything you thought was true. Not because you want to be rebellious, but because of something much more holy, a quiet voice inside you that won't let you accept what you thought was true. You are not lost if you start to question your views, relationships, goals, or even your sense of who you are. Someone is calling you, like a seed cracking open underground before it ever sees the light. Something inside has already started to go down. Carl Jung knew that this kind of breaking down on the inside is not a crisis, but an introduction. The old mental systems start to fall apart because they can't hold the new person you are becoming. On the inside, tectonic plates are moving even if the top looks the same. The thoughts you used to live by, the habits you used to keep doing, and the goals you used to work towards start to feel strangely empty. This pain is not a problem that needs to be fixed. It is the holy work of rebirth. It is the universe's quiet wisdom that has started to strip away illusions that are no longer helpful to your growth. What seems like confusion is actually the start of seeing things clearly. It's a message to wake up from the dream of who you thought you were. Sometimes, this falling apart can feel like death. The death of what you knew, identities formed by pleasing other people, inherited ideals, or dreams that were never really yours. It's not destruction, though. This death is just a sign. It's getting clear. You're not being punished. You're being made clean. No longer does your soul want to live in a box. It tries to reach for something big and real. You might feel like people, places, or habits that used to feel like home don't feel the same. When a mask starts to come off, so do the parts you played for love, safety, or fit in. Yes, this brings sadness, but it also brings freedom. You're not broken. You're just getting free. This holy confusion is a turning point. People start to wonder, who am I beneath all this when the titles fall away? What do I want? Not acceptance, but meaning. These are not just thoughts. They're doors. Life starts to talk to you in a different way once you get through them. There are signs. Synchronicities get stronger. A book shows up. Someone from the crowd tells you exactly what you need to hear. You wake up because of a dream. These aren't just random events. They're proofs. Something higher and more real is connecting with you on the inside. Jung said that real change starts when we are brave enough to hear the voice that isn't being heard, when we let go of the fake self so that the soul can rise. Trust that it will fall apart. Listen to the pain. It's not the end, it's just the way being cleared. Also, keep this in mind. Just because you're questioning something doesn't mean you aren't already becoming it. The most true form of yourself isn't somewhere far off in the future. It's already waking up inside you. The second sign is slight but clear. You start to feel more and more disconnected from the person you used to be. In Jungian words, this is the death of the old self or the shedding of the old persona. Even though it might not be a big deal, it is one of the clearest signs that you are starting a new, more real phase. This separation doesn't happen all at once very often. In the beginning, it's just a whisper, a feeling that something that used to feel exciting, fulfilling, or worthwhile now feels empty. Things like hobbies that used to make you happy, talks that used to feel personal, and routines that used to keep you grounded no longer do. When you look around, you see that the scenery inside your head doesn't match the one outside. It's like the way you see the world is changing. What seemed important at one point now looks like echoes from a different time. The people, places, and habits that used to shape your mental life start to fade away. This doesn't make you angry. It just feels like it's going to happen anyway. It's in your body, in the way you breathe, and in the quiet. The past is becoming less important. This lack of attachment is not cold or callous. It is holy. This is your soul's way of telling you that it's time to grow. Jung talked about this as part of individuation, the process by which the self frees itself from the false beliefs that come from society, family, and ego. It might feel like being lost, but it's really clarity dressed up as confusion. You're not interested in jobs that don't fit you anymore. You start to feel like the job, the demands, and the social mass are all just costumes for a story you no longer want to tell. Yes, there's grief, weird grief for the parts of you that used to feel so real, but now look like characters from a past life. But don't get it wrong, this sadness is holy. As a spiritual being, you're born again through this pain. It's the soul letting go so it can grow. With these parts gone, I start to ask myself, who am I without these roles? What's really important now? How does my life honor the truth I'm starting to feel inside? Even if you don't get answers right away, the fact that you're asking these questions is a step towards something more real and deeper. You might feel pulled to being alone, but not because you want to be alone. Instead, your soul is making room for something new to come out. You might want to be alone, think, or keep things simple. While the outside world keeps making noise, you start to hear a steady, quiet voice inside. You're not lost, that voice says. You are losing weight. You're not hurt. You are becoming, which means that this break with the past is not a sign of failure. It's the quiet movement that comes before you change. You can't find the most beautiful form of yourself by holding on to the past. Instead, you have to let go of it with respect. You make room for the life that is waiting for you when you let go of what doesn't serve you anymore. Have faith in the divide. Believe in the space. There will soon be something important. The third sign shows up when you start to doubt things you used to think were important. Things that used to hold your life together, like titles, accomplishments, and other people's praise, start to fall away slowly, like mist in the morning light. You might be surprised at how quickly your goals change. Things that used to make you want to succeed now seem far away. You used to work hard to please voices that sound weak now. This is not a loss. It's the quiet coming into being of truth. While Jung was writing, he often talked about the point at which the soul starts to reject the group script and the self starts to whisper through holes in the persona. That whisper isn't very loud, but it's clear. Life starts to look different from now on, not higher, but deeper. If you lift the veil, it's like you can see with your inner eye. Material goals are still around, but they don't tell you what you're worth anymore. People may still admire you, but it doesn't make you who you are anymore. You start to wonder, what really feeds my spirit? What makes me live? These questions are very important. They usually start because someone is unhappy and knows that happiness isn't measured by material things or success, but by how deeply they live and connect with others. At first, this process can feel strange. You might feel like you're floating in water you don't know because your views aren't holding you down. But this drifting is done on plan. This is how your soul leads you to greater truths. You are giving up a guide that no longer leads you to your inner north. You might remember old loves, dreams, or parts of yourself that you haven't used in a while that are stirring again. You might also be drawn to new paths you didn't expect. This is the call for being real. Relationships can change, and some ties may feel weak or strained. Talks that used to make me happy now feel empty. You might feel alone, but it's not because no one loves you. It's because you being changed. Not everyone should be with you as you explore this new area. Even though it's uncomfortable, being alone makes room for new energy to come through. People who are in tune with your new energy will show up, sometimes quietly, as if they were called to you by the beat of your inner change. Questioning is not a breakdown. It's a way to see through lies. You're not losing yourself. You're just becoming more aware of who you are beneath all the noise. Even if the world tries to make you follow its rules again, the magic is already broken. You're no longer drawn in by meaningless goals. You want the real thing. This is the start of alignment. Living a life that shows your soul instead of just staying alive. It's not simple or quick. You own it, though. And after going down this path, nothing fake will ever feel like home again. This is how you know that your best part is still ahead of you and quietly taking shape inside you. The fourth sign comes to you as a soft, clear link to your gut. It's not strong or loud. It comes in like a soft stream under your thoughts and leads you to truths that words can't fully describe. This inner compass talks up when logic doesn't seem to be working. Something inside you starts to wake up, not in your mind, but in the deepest part of your being. Jung talked a lot about the self as the whole mind. It gets easier to hear your gut as you get closer to it. I don't think it's a guess. I know it beyond reason. You might notice that choices don't feel like problems anymore. They feel like opportunities. When you walk into a room, you can feel the mood right away. When you're at a fork in the road, your body leans toward one way. This is not your imagination. It's your mind talking to itself in a very old language. Your gut is your inner guide. It has been there with you from the start, watching and waiting for you to slow down enough to hear it. At first, it might happen in spurts, a light nudge, a sudden clarity, or a warmth in your chest. But as you trust it more, you'll see that it has always been talking. You were just not paying attention. This awakening usually starts when your mind is trying to get back in control after your old identities fall apart. But beneath the noise, your gut feeling gets stronger. It leads you not by force, but by rapport. You can't explain why you're drawn to certain people, places, and options. It's like going back home without knowing why. That's because your inner guide, which has been buried for a long time by fear and duty, is now pointing in the direction of your soul. Life starts to fall into place around you more and more as you respect what you know deep down. Patterns that used to be hard to understand now show why they're there. People who seemed far away now seem open and honest. What used to need a lot of thought and study now seems clear. There's less noise in your mind because you're not bargaining with doubt. You've connected with your inner self, the one that can see clearly. You don't look for security outside. You find it inside. It's not always easy to do this, but it's more real. Even though you don't know what will happen, you believe the invisible thread that is pulling you forward. You gain a quiet confidence and inner peace that helps you decide what to do next. You start to pay attention to the time between your thoughts, the feeling in your chest, and the peace that you can't explain when something feels right. By doing this, you make room for a life that moves more naturally and honestly. This link to your perception is very old. It's like a sacred language for the soul. As you can see, you're never really alone when you make choices. Inside you, deeper than thought and older than fear, is wisdom. It shows up not as a list of steps, but as a dance of trust once you start to follow it. The sixth sign is a quiet fire that starts to burn inside, not just for survival or routine, but for deep change. You want to grow as a person more than ever, not because it's cool, but because it's something your soul needs. What once made me happy now makes me feel empty. Old answers don't answer the questions that are coming up inside of you anymore. Your mind starts to expand, looking for something deeper, more real. The longing you feel is not just on the surface. It goes deep into your being. You no longer want to be entertained. You want to grow. Things like books, lessons, and talks that seemed far away at first now hit you right in the heart. Your desire for intelligence grows, not to learn more, but to remember who you are beneath all the conditioning. At this point, the soul wakes up and says, I can't stay asleep any longer. In this holy place, you explore long-lost desires, untapped potentials, and secret parts of your inner life. You feel a pull to heal, and you stop seeing wounds as flaws and start seeing them as opportunities. Individuation, which means the journey back to the self, is what Carl Jung called this process. It includes both light and shadow. It stops being a choice to grow as a person. It becomes your dedication. You no longer ask about success or how you look. Instead, you ask about what you are supposed to become. What part of yourself has yet to be lived? What stories do you keep telling yourself because you're scared? It's not meant to shame you, but to wake you up. They show that you are ready to let go of your past, including limiting ideas and stories that you were told as a child. At this point, growth isn't about getting more layers. It's about getting rid of them. You're not gathering. You're letting go. You take off the top layers to get to the real, permanent core of who you are. Yes, this process can be rough at times. There are times when it seems like everything is ending. However, this falling is holy. It's not ruin, but preparation. Before new roots can grow, the ground has to be cleared. You're drawn to people who want to know more about things like you do. You value honesty over ease and change over staying the same in your relationships. You're no longer scared to be different if it means being yourself. Right now is not the peak, it's the barrier. You are becoming a part of life that is not shaped by fear or expectation, but by a reason for living. You can feel it. You're ready to change, grow, and become. The best part of your life doesn't come from outside. It grows inside you. The fact that you are feeling this urge now shows that the seed has been planted. Things have begun to unfold. Sixth sign, you can't hold back your desire to leave bad relationships and limiting habits that you used to think were okay or normal. This is not a temporary annoyance. It is a holy sign that your soul is becoming aware of what is no longer healthy for its growth. Once comforting ties now feel like chains. Don't feel farther away. You're becoming real. Now that you know yourself better, everything that isn't true starts to fall away. You understand that some people weren't helping you grow. Instead, they were holding you back. You can see how you put up with disrespect being passed off as love, confusion as loyalty, or emotional instability as normal. Those habits feel strange all of a sudden, not because they've changed, but because you have. Because your energy has changed, you're no longer in tune with them. You're starting to connect with something purer, quieter, and more in line with who you are becoming. This change isn't caused by anger. It's caused by discovery. It comes from being clear about the fact that your energy is precious and your peace is unavoidable. No longer do you have to explain yourself or shrink to keep up a false front of peace. You pick yourself out of respect, not because you want to be greedy. Jung called it shedding the false self, which is the persona that holds you back from stepping out of your parts and scripts. When we listen to our souls and let go of what makes us dull, we're not leaving other people. We're coming back to ourselves. As you get away from things that are toxic or not aligned, new truth starts to show itself. You have clearer eyes and better feelings, and you want to be real, honest, and present. It hurts to let go because endings bring sadness, but this grief is holy. It's the sadness of a soul that has given up fantasy for good. Something new starts to grow in its place. A space inside you full of people who mirror how you've changed. People who understand you, who give you ideas, and who tell you the truth. It's not failure, it's freedom. It's the end of entanglement and the beginning of harmony. You make room for what lifts you when you let go of what drains you. What starts to show up isn't loud or wild. It's soft, healing, and deeply resonant. It respects your path, sees how much you've grown, and holds your spirit close. You're not losing people. You're getting rid of false ideas. There are no ties being broken. Cycles are being broken. It's not rejection. It's a change of direction. And as you become more honest on the inside, your outside world starts to reflect that change. You don't start the best part of your life with landing. It starts with release. You are now ready. Sign number 7. You start to feel deeply and clearly detached from everything that used to be important to you, but now doesn't. It comes in quietly, like a light breeze moving the air before a storm. Beliefs, habits, places, and people that used to be important start to lose their hold. The weight of feeling they carried fades. You're not ignoring them out of anger. Instead, you're being called inward to something more important and in line with who you are. Your core goes through a quiet alchemy that dissolves bonds that don't work with your new frequency. This breakup isn't rejection, it's freedom. Your soul is getting rid of defense that it doesn't need anymore. You may have noticed that talks that used to be funny now sound like they were planned. Things that used to make me happy now make me feel empty. Things start to change even in the way you think. Places you're used to feeling strange. It seems like relationships are getting thinner like fog at dawn. Some parts of you may be sad about these changes, but other parts see them as holy. According to Jung, the mind doesn't change by adding things to it. It changes by integrating them, which can mean taking things away sometimes. The pain that comes up is not punishment. It's cleansing. You might be wondering why old habits no longer make you happy, why relationships feel tense, or why your dreams have changed. These questions aren't signs of going backwards. They're signs of moving forward. You are being emptied so that you could be filled again. What used to define you is now just a memory, not because it wasn't important, but because it did its job. You are taking off the outer layer of yourself to get back to something deeper and more permanent. Even though it might not look very different from the outside, things are changing inside. As time goes on, old worries fade away and responsibilities become less tight. What used to pull you with all your might now barely moves you. A deeper knowing that whispers instead of screams comes into being in this stillness. A truth that doesn't need to be explained and must be followed. That's not avoidance. That's recovery. You're not running away. You're coming back to yourself. When you go back, you understand that freedom isn't not having to do anything. It's having alignment. You don't want to be with or in every place or person anymore. You want to be whole. Things that break your spirit or make it hard to see clearly are slowly falling away. Respect this process. If you need to, mourn it, but don't fight it. You make more room for what is coming in when you let go of what is going away. This is the mystery of the threshold, which is the last place between lives and identities. Not a loss, but a passage, a holy blossoming that makes room for new life to grow. If these words hit home for you now, it's because you know deep down that something has started to change. There's a real change. As the old self fades away, a better version of you is rising to the surface. What's really there's your most true, whole self, remembering how to live fully in tune with your soul. Have faith in this gap. It's not the end. It's the quiet start of everything you were meant to be. What really happens when you let go of the remnants of the past and let what wants to come out into the light into your soul is a change that starts the moment you give up instead of fighting it. From the depths comes a holy awakening. Not just a short change of scenery, but a deep reorganizing of your inner world. You're not just making changes to your life, you're also expanding your mind. As you align with a greater truth, you will find that peace and clarity are no longer tied to control. This is more than just the next step in your journey. It's a quiet start to a new way of being. There are signs in your days that you may not fully understand them yet. They talk to you through your need for meaning, your tiredness with illusion, and your growing refuse to betray your soul. These aren't just fleeting feelings, they're invites. There are calls to live fully awake and act with purpose, grace, and honesty. To stop just getting by and start really living. To build a new structure, one that isn't based on fear, but on purpose. It's not about trying to be better, as Jung said. It's about fully accepting who we are, shadow and all. The next step won't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to be present. Being honest will be enough, not being afraid. The most important part of your life isn't outside of you. It's the quiet turn inward, where wisdom doesn't come from answers, but from being aware, pausing, having the strength to let go of what doesn't serve you anymore, and saying yes to the mystery inside. Stay interested. Do not harden. Keep your door open. Not only is the development about becoming more, it's also about becoming more real. These words may have stirred your spirit because something inside you is already getting ready to take the next step. You're not by yourself on this road. We're going on a trip together to find out what we don't know yet, toward the quiet beauty of your most awakened self. We'll see each other soon, in words, in moments, and in shared thoughts. Until then, pay attention to the signs, believe in what you're becoming, and know that what you're going into is not a repeat of the past, but a birth, a return, and a deep homecoming to the truth that has been waiting for you the whole time. If this speech made you feel something, don't stop now. The next movie will show you more about the path of healing, growth, and finding out more about yourself. It could be the big step forward your soul has been waiting for. Use it right now. If you want to join a group that cares about truth, transformation, and real interchange, click subscribe and turn on notifications. You're not the only one going this way. Let's keep becoming the people we were always meant to be in the next movie.